Thank you so much for joining to this session. Although my paper is not related to political economy, but it could be related to policy making. Because in this paper, I'm going to deal with the economic value of socio-emotional skills across a wide variety of countries and how the political system overall and how the policy or institutions could affect the economic value of socio-emotional skills across the countries. It could be a part of related to the political economy or policy making. So basically, in this study, let's talk about some previous literature and also the motivation behind why I've chosen this study. There are some recent literature that they find out the positive labor market returns to socio-emotional skills, and they also show that socio-emotional skills and also cognitive skills, they could be complemented in the labor market in order to create more value and more productivity for the workers in the labor market. But there are two main research gaps. The first, the differences across countries remains unclear because all those previous literature, they focus on specific single countries. For example, Deming 2017 only focused on the value of social skills in the US labor market and how the social skills complement cognitive skills. And also, Edin et al. Only focus on Sweden, Ezid and Tokori focus only in Finland. So the differences across countries remains unclear. And also, moreover, because socio-emotional skills represent a broad umbrella construct, it's not a single skill, it's a kind of umbrella term. So the differences across the dimension of socio-emotional skills also need to be identified, because all those previous literature, they covered a single or a few construct of socio-emotional skills rather than all of them. So we basically address this two literature gap by using PIOC data set that was published in 2023, that conducted in 2023 and published in 2024. PIOC stands for a Program for International Assessments of Adult Competencies that deal with the assessments of adult skills and intelligence and also competencies across the OECD and OECD partner countries. So when we discuss about the skills, what is this? Skills overall is the ability that we can apply our knowledge and we know how to complete a task and solve a problem when we are working and where we are dealing with our daily life situations. When we talk about cognitive skills, generally defined as intelligence or mental abilities that can help us to complete a task or solve a problem. And generally, in this study, I have three types of cognitive skills, which is numeracy, deals mostly with mathematical content; literacy, which also deals with written text and also reading and writing; and adaptive problem solving is dealing with the providing new solution for the new problems that we face. And when we move to the socio-emotional skills, as I said, socio-emotional skills is an umbrella term that describes the personality traits, attitudes, behavior, values, which are important for achieving our goals and working together in a team and managing our emotion in order to complete a task and create value in the labor market. In this study, I have two broad constructs of socio-emotional skills. The first one is the Big Five inventory, consists of openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and emotional stability. And I have a non-Big Five variable, which is called patience, which is the willingness to sacrifice now in order to get more benefit in the future. And the Big Five framework is the most comprehensive and valid framework for measuring the socio-emotional skills. And the good things in this study, I have all the Big Five inventory variables and plus patience, which mostly the previous studies only they deal with the extroversion and consciousness. So they lack including the openness, agreeableness, emotional stability, patience, and other types of variable to see which of these variables could be more important in the labor market. I have like three broad contributions, just ignore the small one. The first one, this study like broaden the geographical scope of the study, because previous studies deal only with a single country, but my study deals with the 21 OECD member countries. So I'm going to study the economic value of socio-emotional skills and how it could be complemented with the cognitive skills across 21 OECD member and partner countries. And the next thing is I'm going to broaden the skill measurement, because in this study I have a richer set of cognitive skills, which is literacy, numeracy, and adaptive problem solving, which is the most recent types of the cognitive skills that are surveyed by the OECD. And also in terms of socio-emotional skills, I have all the big 5 personality traits plus patience. And also, I'm going to broaden the study population. Most of the previous literature relies on relatively a narrow demographic samples, such as like restricted age range, overall like young people, or a single gender sample, such as Ezed and Tokori, and also Eden et al. Only deal with the main sample, which limit what we can infer about the heterogeneity in return to skills in the labor market. And this study covers the full working age population from 16 to 65, that allows us to find out the heterogeneity over the life cycle, over the different age categories. And also, we have both men and women in this study. And also, we can find out the heterogeneity across a further policy relevant subgroup, rather than just female and male. Basically, I have 4 research questions. How do SEME skills affect wage across countries? And do SEME skills enhance value of cognitive skills and vice versa? And also, how do return differ by demographic factors and job-related factors? And finally, which dimension of socio-emotional skills drive returns, and also which one of them drive the complementarity between the 2 types of skills? So now let's talk about the methodology that I'm going to use in this study. First of all, as I said, when I come to the data, I'm using PIOC Cycle 2, which comes from 2023 across 31 countries and economies. But unfortunately, United States, Japan, and Korea decided to not survey the socio-emotional skills dimension of the study. And also, the data for Netherlands still is not available due to some regulations problem that they deal with the OECD. And unfortunately, the data related to social democrat or Nordic European countries are not available for the public use. So finally, my final sample consists of 21 countries and economies, which I'm dealing with the cognitive skills and socio-emotional skills part of this survey. And you can see in this table the definition of the different dimension of socio-emotional skills that I have. And this is the overall sample characteristic that I study in this paper. When it comes to the research model and empirical methodology, I develop a very simple production-based model that explains return to cognitive skills and also social-emotional skills and their complementarity. This model follows a 2-step empirical strategy based on a composite skill index and also dimensional socio-emotional skills analysis. When it comes to the composite skills indexes, which I'm going to make a composite of cognitive skills and another composite of socio-emotional skills to have like one overall cognitive skills and one overall socio-emotional skills. Now, let's consider a representative worker, which he lives in a country C. The worker is characterized by 2 types of skills, composite cognitive skills and composite socio-emotional skills. And production is going to take place in a team-based working environment. And some task requires coordination, communication, interaction between the 2 types of skills. And individual level productivity is given by each types of skills and also the interaction between them. And if we let the wage reflect the productivity in competitive labor market, then we can follow a linear approximation of the return to cognitive skills, socio-emotional skills, and their complementarity. And in this study, BA is going to show the return to cognitive skills, BA is the return to socio-emotional skills, and BAS is going to show the complementarity or the interaction between the 2 types of skills. So basically, if we are going to find out the return to skills here, the return to cognitive skills is increasing with socio-emotional skills and vice versa, because in both of them depends on the other types of skills. The return to cognitive skills depends on the socio-emotional skills. The return to socio-emotional skills depends on cognitive skills. And when we are going to find out the complementarity, which reflects the beta AS, we can find out from the second derivative of the equation 3 and 4, which basically both of them will give us the beta AS. And if it's greater than 0, we can say the interaction is positive, and these two types of skills, they are complement. So the value of one of them will increase with another one. So using this composite-based analysis have three different advantages. The first one, it reduces the measurement error because when we are going to have like simple single index of both of them. Is there any question? So, yeah, it's fine. And also employer value overall skills rather than single questionnaire based. And finally, this composite index is going to reduce the multicollinearity between the different types of skills that we have, especially in case of cognitive skills. The three types of cognitive skills are highly correlated to each other. If we add by single base to the model, so we will have a multicollinearity problem. And the second thing, so I'm going to do a dimensional based analysis. Composite skills comes at the cost of ignoring the distinction between each types of skills. And we will not know the differences between the skills, which types of skills is going to drive the return, and which types of skills is going to drive the complementarity, especially in the case of the socio-emotional skills. For example, either cooperation and conflict management traits, such as agreeableness and emotional stability, or self-regulation traits such as conscientiousness and patience, or communication and learning traits such as extroversion or open-mindedness. Which of these categories drive the return and complementarity is not going to be known by the composite index. That's why in this stage, I'm going to deal with each dimension. So now let the skill be represented, let semi skill be represented by a vector, which consists of agreeableness, conscientiousness, extroversion, open-mindedness, emotional stability, and finally patience, which there are 6 dimensions in this vector. So now, here, the productivity, it depends on the cognitive skills. I have one broad cognitive skills. I will use numeracy as a representative of cognitive skills because they are highly correlated. So one of them could be a good proxy for the rest. And for the socio-emotional skills, I will have one like a kind of dimension of all 6, which is a vector A, C, E, O, E, S, and P. So now, if the GIS is the sum of all socio-emotional skills, and we add them in equation 7, so we will have a kind of broad equation here that the productivity depends on cognitive skills, depends on socio-emotional skills, each of them, and also depends on the interaction between cognitive skills and each types of socio-emotional skills that each workers may have. And when you are going to, again, assume that productivity could be reflected by wage, so then the return to cognitive skills could be, depends on each types of socio-emotional skills, and the return to each types of socio-emotional skills could increase in cognitive skills, which again, here the rho is going to capture the complementarity between socio-emotional skills, each dimension of socio-emotional skills and cognitive skills. So now let's go to the results. So let's talk about the result for model 1 first. If you see this figure, it shows the return to cognitive skills and socio-emotional skills across these 21 countries. And the diamond shape is going to show the return to semi skills, and the bar is for the cognitive skills. If you see here, first of all, there is a substantial cross-country variation from 19 log point in Singapore to -1 log point in Israel. And most transition economies in Eastern Europe, like Latvia, Croatia, Hungary, Estonia, Lithuania, Poland, they show wage premium to socio-emotional skills above the pooled average. But by contrast, Western Europe countries such as Austria, Spain, Italy, Ireland, Portugal, and France, they are below the average. And in the other case, the wage premium to cognitive skills is higher than socio-emotional skills in all countries except Croatia and Poland. Why? Because cognitive skills is directly increasing our productivity because we are going to do our work. But socio-emotional skills are helping us in a team-based working environment in order to fuel our productivity. So then, when we are seeing about the complementarity between two types of skills, yeah, across countries, return to cognitive skills is increasing in SIM skills and vice versa. If you see the pool sample is 2.3 and is statistically significant, it means if we combine both of them, so our overall productivity, our overall income or earning will be higher. And this interaction term is going to be positive and statistically significant in 7 countries, and then most countries is positive but not statistically significant. And again, most of the Eastern Europe countries such as Czech Republic, Estonia, Hungary, and Lithuania, they show a positive interaction between the two types of skills. In addition, Canada, France, and New Zealand, and most of the Western Europe countries, they are not showing any positive interaction between the two types of skills based on the composite analysis. And when it comes to the mechanism, how much of these returns could be derived by the education and could be derived by the job factors? So there's another question, that how much of individual and combined returns to skills remain after controlling for years of education and job factors, because there could be as a mediator factor. So it means skills is going to lead us to more education, and more education to more wage premium, or skills is going to lead us to better job, better occupation, better industry, and better firm size, and then we will have higher return rather than between special job characteristic or within the same education level. But again, after controlling to those mediator effect, still the return to socio-emotional skills and cognitive skills is positive, but shrink largely. That means a big portion of the return to cognitive skills and socio-emotional skills is due to sorting in education and job characteristic, rather than within job characteristic and within the same education level. But overall, the interaction term between the two types of skills doesn't change so much. It comes from 2.3 to 2.1, only 0.02 difference. And the result is quite robust across different types of additional controls. Still, there's no big change and quite robust for them. And when it's going to heterogeneity analysis, I again check by gender, age group, migration status, and job-related factors. And we see that return to socio-emotional skills and also complementarity between the two types of skills are going to increase by age. And return to SIM skills and complementarity are higher for male rather than for female samples, and is higher for natives rather than for migrant. And also, when it comes to the job factor, like sector, firm size, and whether individual are matched in terms of their skills in the labor market or mismatched, return to all measure of skills are higher for private sector employees. Return to cognitive, socio-emotional skills, and the interaction. And return to socio-emotional skills and complementarity are higher for SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, rather than the big one. But return to cognitive skills is higher for the large enterprises. And return to skills are higher for matched employees, but in the other case, the complementarity of the interaction is higher for the mismatch, because mismatched employees needs more the combination of both of them in order to at least manage their emotion, their sustainability in the job that they are mismatched. And when it comes to the wage distribution, as you see, the return to cognitive skills and socio-emotional skills is increasing up to a certain level, like a T quantile, and then it's dropped. But the interaction term is declining over the wage cycle. It means it's much more higher for the below and the median wage distribution rather than for the high wage distribution, because when we are in the median or in the low wage distributions, we need more both of them to like have more productivity, because Jim Sexmas argue a very good thing. He says more of a good thing is bad, because when we are in the high wage distribution, so it means we have both of them at the same times, and more of good things will not create extra like economic value. That's why combining more of both of them will not benefit us. When it comes to the second model, if we see, so sorry for the very large table because there's a many dimension here. Overall, among 6 dimensions of socio-emotional scales, extroversion, patience, and emotional stability are the main driver of wage premium in the labor market from the socio-emotional scale dimension. And while it comes to the complementarity or the interaction between two types of skills, self-regulation traits such as consciousness and patience are the main driver of the interaction or the main driver of the complementarity. And this, we are showing a stylized fact that agreeableness has no wage premium in none of the countries. If you see, either agreeableness provide a negative statistically significant, or even if it's positive, it's close to zero, very small. So it means there is no wage premium for agreeableness. The thing is, because those people which their agreeableness level is high, so when it comes to wage bargaining, so they accept anything. When it comes to teamwork, they accept to do anything. So that's why they are not going to earn that much. And now, as I said, extroversion, emotional stability, and open-mindedness is going to drive the return because in many countries, they're positive and significant. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. Yes, yeah. Yeah. Yes, sure. Actually, I have that descriptive statistic about the differences in skills between the different types of subpopulations, but due to the time constraints, I didn't bring here. Usually, for the when it comes to the differences between male group and female group, yeah, for the female group, emotional stability is lower than male, but agreeableness is higher for female than male. But the other things, the extroversion and patience is higher for female. So in this case, as you see, since agreeableness level is higher for female, and at the same time, agreeableness does not have any wage premium or either it's negative. So that's why overall the wage premium for for the like composite socio-emotional scales is higher for female. So that's why the differences in the distribution of these scales could affect the return of them. That's why it's clearly specific. So that's why then in the next stage, I'm going to tackle each dimension to see which of them is exactly drive those returns and which of them is the source of those differences across different subgroups. Yeah, welcome. I think I have just one slide with conclusion, and then we will end up this session. As a result summary, we saw that there is a substantial differences in return to socio-emotional skills exist across countries. And the next thing about the interactions, socio-emotional skills enhance the value of cognitive skills and the vice versa. And when it comes to the disaggregated skills, extroversion, patience, and emotional stability are leading SEME skills in the labor market. And self-regulation traits such as patience and conscientiousness are the main driver of complementarity between two types of skills, and agreeableness doesn't create any economic value. So when it comes to the demographic and economic factors, return vary by gender, by age, by migration status, by economic sectors, by firm size, and by skill mismatch. So there's a big heterogeneity across subpopulation as well. So the thing is, my result shows that when we deal with one population overall and we do not consider the gender, the age, the migration status, economic sector, firm size, so we will provide a biased estimation of the overall return to socio-emotional skills that previous literature did. So that's why we show here that they are different. So we have to consider this heterogeneity when we are analyzing the return to socio-emotional skills and cognitive skills in the labor market. And one limitation in this study, it's the result could be interpreted as a association rather than causality. The first thing, because there are too many variables in this study, and the variable of choice is a lot. For example, 6 dimension of socio-emotional skills, 3 dimension of cognitive skills, their interactions. It's really hard to find out an IV that could be exogenous to all of them. It could be like correlated with these skills, but exogenous to wage. So in this case, the result should be interpreted as an association rather than causality, and we have to deal with heterogeneity problem in the future studies. And the thing is, since this data is cross-sectional, so we cannot deal with that. If in the future we could have some like panel data about socio-emotional skills that we don't have yet, maybe 5 years later or 10 years later we will have them, then we can use the panel data in order to deal with the causality or the causal inference on return to skills and their interaction in the labor market. So this is it for my research related to the economic value of socio-emotional skills and their complementarity in the labor market. So the countries should take the result of this study in order to make a good policy for improving those skills in the labor market in order to create a good economic value. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Yeah, you're welcome.